Ami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashyakritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Gukarastu Andakaro Vai Rukarastu Nivartakaha Andakara Nirodhitvat Gururitya Vidhiyate Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvisha Vahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So today we will continue on the next step of the Nididhyasanam. And as you know, we are starting with an understanding of the yogic meditation, yoga meditation, Ashtanga Yoga. So we are starting with the platform of the Ashtanga Yoga, and then based on that, relative to that, contextually from that, looking at the Vedantic meditation. So this is the methodology that we are following, and the Vedantic meditation is given in the Aparoksha Anubhuti that we have been studying. So, as you know, the Ashtanga Yoga means the steps for samadhi in the yoga system of thinking is, as you know, yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyanam, and samadhi. Yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyanam, samadhi. So this is the Ashtanga Yoga. And so based on that, we have 15 angas, if you want to call it, different method, different steps for the Nididhyasanam, which we saw in verse number 102 and 103 of Aparoksha Anubhuti. And those are 15 of them. Just to revise it, we have done this before. Yama, niyama, tyaga, maunam, desha, kala, asana, मूलबंधः देह साम्य दृष्टि स्थिति प्राण संयम प्रत्याहार धारणा आत्मध्यानम and sakshatkaranam, or samadhi, if you can call it. So these are the Vedic yogas, Vedic steps. So today we are going to do Pratyahara. Pratyahara is if you want to call it, the fifth step of the Ashtanga Yoga, and I don't know how many steps we have done already on but equivalent to that. So let's do the understanding of what is called Pratyahara. So in the yogic system, Pratyahara means pulling back the mind and the sense organs that are outwardly engaged inside yourself. So both the sense organs supported by the mind, because the mind actually works very closely with the sense organs. It is in fact the master of the sense organs. I think Swami Dayanandji had given this very beautiful example that just like you have a dispatcher in a taxi business, so you have a number of taxis that are moving around the town, one taxi picking up one customer, bringing him back, then becoming available for a while, then another taxi. And so the dispatcher is the one who is coordinating the various movements and functions and utility of the taxis. So very similarly to that is the mind, which works very closely, intricately with the sense organs and makes some sense out of it and resolves any ambiguities. Like, for example, supposing you see a fruit and the fruit happens to be a false fruit, it's just like a stone fruit, then the eyes cannot tell that if it is well made, the eyes cannot tell this is a stone fruit. And so the mind tells the hand, he says, can you please go touch it? And the hand touches it and he says, nope, this is not a real fruit. This is what happens many times when we go to somebody's home also, but generally not homes, but in businesses. You see a beautiful set of flowers. And the mind, and you always have a doubt, is this a real flower or is this artificial flower? And so some examination has to be done for you to resolve, yes, this is a real flower. You can touch it and and so on. So the mind works very closely with the sense organs. So going back to pratyahara, pratyahara means withdrawing both the sense organs and the mind onto yourself. It's kind of like, the business closes and then the taxi business, supposing the taxi goes only up to 11 o'clock at night. And then, so you close the taxi movements and as well as the dispatcher, because who's not needed anymore, and you kind of close it off. You shut the whole office, something like that. So the pratyahara means that. So here Swami Akhandananda ji has given a very interesting breakdown of the pratyahara even from a yogic standpoint. Okay? So what he says is, pratyahara is the first of the 4 steps to do samadhi. So in a way, the Ashtanga Yoga with yama, niyama, asana and pranayama are just the preparatory steps. This is kind of get everything ready. Now you have to really engage in the understanding of what samadhi is. So these are the 4 steps to the second part of the Ashtanga Yoga is pratyahara, dharana, dhyanam and samadhi. So Swami Akhandananda ji has given a very interesting segmentation, if you may, of these 4 steps starting with pratyahara. So just look at this. Pratyahara means Vishaya Drishti. Vishaya drishti means your focus on the object itself. Vishaya means an object, and we will go into the Vishaya definition in a minute. But so the drishti of concern with the objects, to bring that back is pratyahara. Then comes next is dharana. Swamiji says the dharana, so this you almost have to, you have to have some shraddha towards it, because it doesn't, shraddha is required when something is not obvious. It may be true, but it's not obvious. This is where shraddha comes into being. So here, just look at this. The next few steps are not obvious at first until you inquire into it. So this is where the Shastra Drishti is important, because for us we do not have the wisdom of understanding yet. We will once we understand the Shastra. The Shastra has to tell us, look at it this way. Look at it this way. So this is where the rest of the steps are not obvious, but you have to have some shraddha. So the next one is dharana. Dharana, Swamiji says, is desha drishti. Pratyahara is vishaya drishti. Dharana is desha drishti. So this means from the standpoint of location. So this will become clearer as we go along. So dharana means the practice of samadhi, but looking at it from the standpoint of location, desha. Next comes dhyanam. Dhyanam is kala drishti. So from the standpoint of time. So now we have three things. We have vastu drishti or vishaya drishti, same thing, vastu and vishaya. Then we have desha drishti. Then we have kala drishti. So these are the coordinates. So time and space are the two axes upon which all of the prapancha is happening, and the exact nature of the vastu is the vishaya. Then so pratyahara is done, dharana is done, dhyanam is done. What is samadhi? Samadhi is all three of them being withdrawn. It's the total withdrawal is the fourth step. Okay, so this is one of the things which one has to slowly understand, and we require some shraddha because it's not obvious. Now, going into the etymology of pratyahara, because as you know very well that in Shastra and in the language of the Shastra, which is Sanskritam, nothing is just assumed. Very few things are just by convention. There is nothing by convention. It is all by the truthful meaning behind the words. So this is what is called etymology. Etymology means how is it derived? What is the sense of it? What does it represent? Where is the truth behind it? So now let's look at the etymology of pratyahara. Okay, so just look at this. So pratyahara means prati ahara. Ahara, what is ahara? Ahriyate iti ahara. Ahriyate means one which is gathered, one which is obtained, one which is absorbed, like food. Normally, ahara means food. In fact, there is probably in Hindi and in other cases, people will say, "Aapne ahar kar liya?" Have you eaten already? Have you had your lunch already? So, ahara means, in a simplified form, eating. So, eating is one of the various things that we absorb and we obtain. But in a larger setting, look at this. Our mind and sense organs are continuously engaged in ahara. Whether it is sound, whether it is taste, whether it is a sense of touch, we are continuously engaged in absorbing things from outside, isn't it? So this is what is called ahara. That means there is a flow of information, useful information, non-useful information, different kinds of information that we are continuously engaged in normally. Right? So this is called ahara. And so pratyahara means to reverse, either to stop or to reverse the natural flow of ahara is called pratyahara or pratyahara. So both the stopping as well as reversing have different aspects to that. So in the classical sense of the definition of pratyahara, and from a yogic standpoint, from a Ashtanga yoga standpoint, it means slowing down and stopping. Right? Slowing down and stopping. But in the case of Vedanta, as we will see, it's something more than that. We'll go into the more details later on. But one part of that, that's why I'm bringing it now, the Vedantic sense of it, even though we're going to talk about it in more detail later. I just want to build the foundation of the word pratyahara. So, from a Vedantic standpoint, the pratyahara can be looked at as vyavahara. Vyavahara means transactional capability. And transactional capability means what? That means that based on what you are obtaining as ahara, you're also responding to it. So this is where vyavahara is a excuse me. Vyavahara is a variation to pratyahara. You see, it's a variation of pratyahara. Why? Because it has both the jnana indriyas and manaha to obtain the outside impetus, but also the karma indriya and mind that responds to it. And so this comprises as vyavahara, which is transactional capability of both in and out. Okay, so we will now move on to the next. I just wanted to bring that point of view out, which we will see in much more detail later on. Now let's move on to when we obtain things from outside, the ahara, what we get from outside is the vishaya. So vishaya means what we get from outside. Could be in various forms. It could be sounds, it could be listening, it could be seeing, smelling, whatever it is. So these are the various vishayas. Similarly to etymology of the word ahara, the etymology of the word vishaya also is very important. And there are two variations of the etymology of vishaya. Okay, one is Vishranvanti. So I won't go into the details of it. I don't even remember exactly the dhatu of it is. I'm just remembering it from Swamiji's lectures, Swamiji's bhasha. Shrinvanti means one that binds. Nibadhnanti iti vishaya. So Vishaya in one definition is Vishranvanti, which also means Nibadhnanti. Bandhanam, Nibandhanam means the one that binds, is called Vishaya. So for in our life what happens is, this is very, now we can appreciate it, you see the various objects. But the various objects are not just random things, they actually have the ability to attract you. You look at something, this is exactly what happens. You go to a restaurant, you have some good food and you say, oh, this is nice. I didn't know about this particular thing. And so what happens? If a desire is born for that object, which probably takes you back again sometime. Let's say, I must have that. And so also dislikes. You do not, if you don't like something, then you do not want to have that again. This is also a binding of some sort. Because if a person who can eat anything, doesn't make any difference as long as it is healthy. But no, we have likes and dislikes. So both things that we like also binds us, and things that we don't like also bind us, because we don't want to have that anymore. We all have our own likes and dislikes. And so those are called, so the Vishayas are things that arrest our attention and keep it together with the help of the vasanas. So vasana means memories. If you ate something that you didn't want, that you didn't like, then a vasana is created where as soon as you remember what it is, you don't want to go near it. You don't want to buy it. So this is the one aspect of Vishaya. The word Vishaya also has another meaning, which comes from Visha. Okay, Visha means poison. So these are two different meanings. One is one that binds you, and the other one which poisons you. You should just completely avoid it. You should not touch it. So you have poison ivy, which we have in our, especially after the rains, you have a lot of poison oak and poison ivy. And we should learn to avoid it, because if you touch it, there's problems. You can have a lot of skin rash and so on. So here, Swami Akhandananda ji pointed out, as though, and others also, that a poison is to be avoided by coming in touch with it. And so it is dangerous. The other aspect of the Vishaya is much more dangerous, because the poison you can avoid. If you know what this is poisonous, then you can avoid it. And if you happen to come across it, it's unfortunate, but it doesn't happen all that much. But in the case of the Vishaya, the other meaning, which is badhanati, it is there with you all the time. And Swami Akhandananda ji says that even the mere memory of it creates problems for you. Like, for example, supposing you just say, all of a sudden, it was interesting, just yesterday we were having lunch with my older son and his two daughters, the older grandchildren. So we were just having lunch. And then after that lunch, then people said, well, what should we have for dessert? So these two girls said, so can we have ice cream? So my son said, sure, let's have ice cream. And my wife and I, we said, we won't have any. Normally we don't have desserts except for special occasions like birthdays or something like this. So we said, no, we don't want anything. We're going to go back home and you guys can go anywhere. So they were all discussing where to get ice cream from. And there was nothing close by in that area that we were in Palo Alto. And they said, oh my God, I don't know where to go. Maybe we should drive to. So they had a little problem in trying to figure out where to go. So this is the binding that comes in, because the mere memory of ice cream means now you have to have it. Once it enters your system, and then before that, if nobody had mentioned ice cream, maybe nobody would have wanted it. But because somebody mentioned it, it's binding. So this is the meaning of ahara. And pratyahara means to be away from ahara, to lessen the ahara and to eventually stop it with the help of dharana, dhyanam and samadhi. So this is the basis of the understanding of the Ashtanga Yoga. So here let's just close with, and so I think that today I will close with the understanding of the yogic aspect of pratyahara, and next week we will start the Vedantic aspect of pratyahara. So example of the pratyahara in the yogic system, and also to a large extent in the Vedantic system as well, is to lessen the dependency on something. Either you sit down and through the yama, niyama and asana and pranayama, you just do it in a focused place, or you now expand it to your life. Even in the yogic system, that should be done. So for example, to lessen your dependency on something, like for example, supposing you have to have some dessert after dinner or after lunch, after any meal, is a dependency that you should recognize and as far as possible to to eliminate it. Means that you don't have to have dessert. Once in a while it is okay, but you don't have to have it all the time. Similarly, for example, supposing you really enjoy the company of people, and most of us do, and we enjoy having people, our friends, relatives, and we talk a lot, we engage with them, what's common, what's not, discuss politics and so on. We kind of enjoy that, and this is what we do. But if you become attached to that, that means you cannot enjoy just sitting back yourself. This is unfortunate. The best thing would be that you enjoy company when people are there, and you enjoy your own self when the company is not there. That is the best part. But that doesn't happen. So you get attached to the company to a point where if you're sitting by alone, you feel very bored. You feel like this, I'm lonely. Problem. And so the wisdom requires that you are fine if you're engaged, and you are fine if you're not engaged. Doesn't make any difference. So, for example, the advice given here, I'm actually getting some of the material from the commentary of Swami Akhandananda ji on this section of the Aparoksha Anubhuti. You skip meals once in a while. So this is the whole idea of having fasting. Means that you should just you don't have to really just have, because we just eat whether we are hungry or not. 7 o'clock in the evening we must have dinner, lunchtime and so on. Just have the freedom to say, I won't have it. This was a real experience that I really benefited from it. Because I used to have, some time ago, some snack before going to sleep. Because you've had your meal at about 6 or 6 o'clock or so, and then you feel hungry by the time you're ready to go to sleep. So I would normally have a snack. So somebody suggested that if you do intermittent fasting, then you don't have anything between that meal and the next day, try it. And once I tried it, I found out that I really doesn't make any difference if I don't have snacks anymore before going to sleep. And it was easier than I thought, but because I was used to doing it, I thought it would be difficult. Anyway, I've got a few more things to talk about. I'm running out of time. About the yogic pratyahara. I'm almost done. And so we will start the next class with this quick completion of the yogic pratyahara, and then we will move into the Vedantic pratyahara for next week. So with that, let me close off this part of the class and then move on to the Bhagavad Gita. Parthaya pratibodhitam bhagavata Narayanena swayam vyasena grathitam purana munina madhye mahabharatam advaitamritavarshinim bhagavatim ashtadashadhyayinim ambatvamanusandanami Bhagavad Gita bhavadveshini yam brahma varunendra rudra marutaha stunvanti divyaistavaihi vedai sangha padakrama upanishadaihi gayanti yam samagaha Dhyanavastita tatkatena manasa Pashyanti yam yoginaha yasyantam na vidussura suraganaha devaya tasmai namaha. Okay. So last week we went over verse number 30. Dehi nityam abadhyoyam dehe sarvasya bharata tasmat sarvani bhutani natvam shochitum arhasi. So this is the 30th verse of the second chapter. Today we will do verse number 31. Swadharmamapi chavekshya na vikampitum arhasi dharmadhi shuddhyachreyonyat shratriyasya na vidyate. Swadharmamapi chavekshya na vikampitum arhasi dharmyadhi yuddhyachreyonyat kshatriyasya na vidyate. So he says, just a very quick translation of the verse, and then we will see the commentary. Swadharmamapi cha avekshya. So here Swami Shankarananda ji says, later on we will see that you should replace the word cha with tu. So many times because of Sandhi rules, they use kind of like I would say synonyms, but they use words that can be interchanged. So cha means and. But here he says the meaning should be tu. However, tu means a vilakshana. It's a departure from what you were doing before. It's a different turn. However is a different term. You know, this is exactly what has been going on. In before that, it was Veda Vinashinam Nityam, etc., etc. Therefore, you should not be sorrowful. However, so the new line is now being given. So that is the meaning of cha, which is tu. Swadharmam api tu avekshya. If we want to just change that right now in our meaning. But, you know, it's okay. Swadharmam api cha avekshya. So, even looking from the standpoint of your own dharma, dharma means what is it, what you are enjoined to do. All of us have a certain role in life. Certain things that we were born in, and then we enhanced it by education, by our status, by our ability, segmentation of families, etc. There is a certain dharma that comes out. Okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. So very simply, a dharma of a bachelor, single people, is to have some friends, enjoy, and so on. I'm just taking a real life example. My younger son, how he just, you know, his whole life completely changed after he was married. All of us happens after he got married. And then life changes again once you have a child. And we deal with him on a basis. He's in his late 40s now. But all his life he was a bachelor. And he would say, oh, you know, yesterday I played golf and I did this. So his dharma was to enjoy and to be healthy and to be a productive part of the society. Then he got married and he's got a child. His dharma is to take care of the child, to take her to school, to feed her. That is the dharma. So the dharma keeps changing depending on where you are. So he says, Swadharmam apicha avekshya. Avekshya means to really asamantat vekshya. Asamantat means fully understanding, means grasping it. Understanding your own dharma. Even from the standpoint, so here's the translation, it would be, Hey Arjuna, even from the standpoint of your own dharma, you do not deserve to have sorrow. Then the justification for this statement comes in the second line, Dharmyat hi yuddhat. Because of the advent of a war which is based on dharma. You see, so for example, a fight can be either just random, like you have the road rage. Is what happens. Two people collide, and then there's some damage and so on and so forth, and then you can see people just fighting over it. It's your fault. It is your fault. So that fight can lead up to death if you want. People take out their revolvers or whatever, and this is the unfortunate part about this country, is that everybody gets emotional. Everybody has problems. Everybody has positives and negatives. What makes it special in this country is the guns. Amazing, really, how such a progressive, rich, and wonderful country has the culture of guns. Anyway, so that's a separate thing. But comparing it, see, what I was saying was that you can have a gunfight which is between two gang members, or you can have a gunfight based on protection of dharma. One person who is really unreasonable and the other person who's very justified. So that kind of a yuddha, that kind of a battle is called dharmiya buddha. So this is what Lord Krishna is saying. He says, Dharmyat hi yuddhyat shreyo anyat kshatriyasya na vidyate. He says that if you are a kshatriya, which Arjuna is, he belongs to the kshatriya jati. His dharma was to protect and to fight. And so, I was interested. I think I was telling you this, that when I was in high school in Amritsar, there were four or five people who were very close to each other. We will always hang out together and so on. And so when we were graduating, we were all discussing what do we want to do. And very interestingly enough, two out of there were about six people. Two of them really want to join the army. And they did. One of them actually lost his leg in the war with Pakistan. But he rose up, he became a brigadier and very senior advisor to the chief of staff. But I remember he would just be very enthused by the very fact that I want to join the army. Whereas there were two or three of us who were not really that we wanted to study more and to go to college. Everybody wants to go to college, that's not it. But we really just wanted to do more study in terms of science and so on. And so the Kshatriya here means that one who is inclined for going into the army. For a person who enters the army, for that person, it is very fortunate that he or she gets engaged in a war which is based on dharma. It is not just that you are just picking out a fight with somebody because of any reason, emotional reason. No. So, for example, just in the Kargil war, Pakistan backstabbed us. On one hand, we were trying to be very friendly, and on the other hand, they were really trying to take advantage of the friendship, and so many people got killed. And so it's a dharma war. No, they didn't need to backstab us, but they did. But then we had to fight. And as Swami Shankarananda also will say, and Krishna will also say, that really for a Kshatriya who is enjoined in the career of fighting, there is nothing better than to be engaged in a dharma war. That's what he's saying. Dharmyadhi yuddhyat shreyo anyat kshatriyasya na vidyate. Other than that, there is nothing better for a kshatriya. And that is, hey Arjuna, that is your dharma. Swadharma vapicha avekshya. That is what your dharma is. Because you have chosen to be a senapati, a leader of he was not an ordinary person. He had studied and honed his skills as an archer and as a leader of people. And for him to fight in this war is very fortunate. So now let us look at the meaning of the word tu. As I mentioned before, tu makes a turn. So let's look at now based on the commentary from Swami Shankarananda. So this commentary is given in the introductory paragraph starting with Veda Vinashinam Nityam. So this is given in this page, on this book on page number 81. So he says, Veda Vinashinam iti atra ayamarthaha sputam nirupitaha. So this is verse number 21. Veda Vinashinam Nityam, etc. So he says that in the verses starting with the teaching of the truth of the Atma, that you cannot kill the Atma. It is not something which is your object. You're killing a body which is just based on the Atma. It's one of the things that seems to provide, it's like an ornament. So yeah, you can kill an ornament, but you cannot kill the underlying vastu, which is gold. So the Atma is like gold. You cannot touch it. It's absolutely not possible to do anything. So this is what's been talked about up until this time. So that's what he's saying. Veda vinashinam iti atra ayamarthaha. Ayamartha means the meaning of such of verses like Veda vinashinam. Sputam nirupitaha is now very clearly discussed. with arguments, counter arguments, all of that is done. Therefore, sarvamidam aham cha brahma eva iti sarvasya brahma matratva vijnanam atma prasadat ajam yasya tasya na kinchit kartavyam asti. So you see, look at this. I tell you, this is the beauty of following the commentary of Mahatmas on Bhagavad Gita, on any other text as well. What they provide you is a consistent view of the flow of what is being taught. Because in Bhagavad Gita, it is all the truth, but it is presented in such a way, the interconnection and the fundamental foundation that should allow us to think through very systematically needs to be brought out. Because the structure is different. You have different chapters with different emphasis, and all of that. So the structure has to be normalized. What do we mean by the structure being normalized? He says that, listen, it is already done in terms of Veda Vinashinam iti atra sputam nirupitaha. It is already very clearly shown. And what is it shown? What is the implication of showing that? The implication of showing that is, as we have seen all of this before, that for one who understands that everything is nothing but Brahman alone. Brahman means Paramatma, means Jivatma, means Atma, means conscious entity. Everything is nothing but a conscious entity alone. Even so, going back to the example, the familiar example of the swapna avastha, dream. So dream means this is a very amazing thing, honestly, the more we think about it. You have sun, you have heat, you have mountains, you have friends, you have enemies, you have people that bother you. There's so much detail and so much variety. That's the word I was looking for. Look at the variety. There are things that are jada. There is a table in you can even dream of a table. You can say this doesn't respond, it doesn't get upset in the dream. And then you have people who are talking to you and they are either bothering you or not bothering you. And then you have sun shining and you have so much going on. Amazing. All of that is nothing but consciousness. Amazing. So similarly, when we understand that really the entire set of variety of things that I see, my house, my car, my spouse, my children, and all of those kinds of things is nothing but Brahman alone, Atma alone. This is what we have to understand. That this is like a dream-like experience, which bothers me at times, or gives me pleasure, or whatever. But eventually, this is nothing but a completely different thing altogether. So this is the basic structure that the commentary of Swami Shankarananda is providing out. He's reminding us. He says, Sarvamidam aham cha brahma eva. This is from Upanishads. He says, even I am Brahman, and what I see is Brahman. There is nothing but ethic consciousness alone, conscious quantity alone, trying to avoid the word consciousness. So he says, Sarvamidam aham cha brahma eva iti sarvasya brahma matratva vijnanam. Brahma matratva vijnanam means that everything is Brahman. This is our end point. This is what we have to see. Because we can begin to say, what? Just by seeing that I am Brahman? This is exactly how the mind works. You don't understand the sheer importance of knowing this. So you don't even begin. Really? That's it? What? You can give me something to eat or something, whatever, but knowing Brahman, how does that? Well, this is the thing we have to graduate to. Anyway, so what he's saying is that sarvamidam cha aham brahma eva iti sarvasya brahma matratva vijnanam atma prasadam ajam yasya. Means for whom this knowledge that I am Brahman, which is ajam, which is immortal, not subject to time or space or any other limitation, an independent entity. This is what we call then. When I say consciousness should be replaced by a conscious person, Purusha. This is an entity. It is not a property of consciousness. It is the conscious Purusha, the one who understands this. How does it understand this? Atma prasadat, which is the final prasada. We have seen this. So this is Ishvara prasada, Shastra prasada, Guru prasada, Atma prasada. The one whose mind allows the person to appreciate that I am nothing but Brahman alone. That person. So that's what he says. Now we can look at the sentence. Iti sarvasya brahma matratva vijnanam atma prasadat ajam yasya tasya na kinchit kartavyam asti. So now we can complete it. To that person, nothing remains to be done. In Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, which we will study in, I think next on the Tuesday night class, where Vidyaranya ji is bringing that up. Kimichan kasya kamaya anusanja. Kimichan kasya kamaya. What is the verse? Anyway, it doesn't come to me in a minute. It might. But it means that once you understand that I am the very Brahman, there is nothing to be done, there is nothing to be known. I'm done. Kritakrityata. Whatever needed to be done is done. There is no reason for me to, because I do it because of my feeling that I am just a limited object. Swami Akhandananda ji in his commentary on the Mandukya Upanishad has pointed this out. He says this is an interesting thing. If I can just digress for a second, then I'll come back to it. He says, we feel that so we have we classify ourselves in varna and ashrama. Ashrama means that I have am I a student, or am I a householder, am I a vanaprasthi, or am I a sannyasi? So these are the four ashramas. And the varnas are brahmana, kshatriya, vaishya and shudra. These are the four varnas. So in his commentary he is pointing out the thing that you have to see is all four of each, ashrama and varna, the two axes on which I am plotting my space, simultaneously exist in you. You see, from the standpoint of me as a jiva, which has a deha, we saw with the word dehi. Remember? So what was the dehi nityam avadhyoyam? The one that has a deha is called a dehi. So there you can even say it's just like a jivatma. So as long as I take myself to be a deha, then these ashramas and varnas become separate things that require time and space, because I cannot be a householder at the same time that I'm a sannyasi. So there are sequential points. Similarly, I'm either born as, for whoever we feel, well, I'm born as a brahmana, kshatriya, etc., etc. So we have all these. Swami Akhandananda says, from the standpoint of the Atma, which is the standpoint that we must adopt. If we continue to use the standpoint of Deha, then that's a different thing altogether. This is what we've been doing. But if you now look at the standpoint of the Atma, from that standpoint, all of them exist in you simultaneously. Very much like my three gunas, sattva guna, rajo guna and tamo guna. It's not as though that I am a rajoguni. All three gunas are intermingled and exist in me simultaneously. Some that take kind of like a prominent role, and some that take a backward role from time to time necessarily. So for example, at night time, tamoguna is most important. You won't be able to go to sleep until you have tamoguna. You are just completely engulfed in darkness, and you need to be. In fact, you should turn off the lights. And other places you have to be active. Other places you have to be knowledgeable and you have to study. So their gunas are all different, but they are all existing in you at the same time. So going back to this, the varna, this is the thing that this is quite an insight. He says, you are Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra all intermingled in you at the same time. How? How can we say that? So look at this. We will do this when we do the Mandukya Upanishad in detail. He says, the feeling that I must be doing something. I'm a worker and I need to be engaged in doing something. Is a Shudra. Shudratvam. then I must acquire something. I gotta get some things. I must accumulate. This is the Vaishyatvam. Then I am a brave person. I must reach the final goal of life, whatever that happens to be, Brahmatvam, etc. But I am a fighter. I am a go-getter. Is the Kshatriyatvam. And I need to be more knowledgeable. I need to know. I need to, etc. Doing, etc. is secondary. Knowledge is the most important one, is the Brahmanatvam. So he says all four of them exist in you at any one time. And you have to see how you work through them in order to achieve what you want to do. Okay? And the reason I mention this is, going back to this, he says, Sarvamidam aham cha brahma eva iti sarvasya brahma matratva vijnanam atma prasadat ajam yasya tasya na kinchit kartavyam iti. For that person there is nothing to be done. You are done. There is nothing to do, nothing to acquire, nothing to give up, nothing to be to win over, and nothing to know. Really, the ultimate knowledge is the very nature of knowledge itself, which is you. So one who understands that I am the very nature of the knowledge, Jnanam Anantam Satyam, I am the very Brahman, I am the one which is Purnaha. If you know this, is there something to be done? Nothing is to be done. So look at the structure here. So Krishna talks to Arjuna. I mean, look at the setup and the consistency, as I mentioned. The consistency of the approach of these masters that commented on the Gita. They put all the dots together, and you have to create a structure based. They connect all the dots. The connection of the dot is for a person that knows everything. There is no need for you to fight. But this is the word tu that comes in. Now comes the next one. Fine, from a Brahmavit, na kinchit kartavyam. Then the next line starts on a different direction. Tad anyasya aham mama iti ityadi abhimana vrittaha abhimana vataha. Sorry, I was looking at the next line. Ityadi abhimana vataha mumukshoho brahmanaha vividishanti yagyena danena iti ityadi shruti balat chitta shuddhyartham vidhidrishtaha swadharmaha purva ukta jnana siddhyarthaha kartavyaha eva iti bodhayitum idam prakaranam arabhate. He says, let's start from the backwards. He says, now a new topic. Prakaranam means a topic. Prakaranam arabhyate. I didn't pronounce it, I just mixed it up. Let me do that one more time. tadanyasya aham mama ityadi abhimanavataha mumukshoho brahmana vividichanti yagyena danena ityadi shruti balat chitta shuddhyartham vididrishtaha swadharmaha purva ukta jnana siddhyartham kartavyaha eva iti bodhayitum idam prakaranam arabhyate. Oh, that is better. Less mistakes. So he says, now, however. So see the departure. For one who has understood everything, there is nothing to be done. So nothing to be done means you don't even need to eat. You don't need to do anything. Let alone fight this war. No way. But if you are not at that point yet, then the act of war, which is based on your dharma, is tantamount to improving your mental capacity so that you can understand the sarvatvam of the world. At this point, you don't. So you are still incomplete, and therefore you cannot spoil your life by saying, I'm not going to fight. Because your dharma says you should fight, therefore you have to be engaged in your dharma, at the same time improving your mental attitude so that you're able to be more equipped to understand what you did not understand before. This is the general sense. So now let's look at the words to make sure that they fit this general sense. He says, Ajam yasya tasya na kinchit kartavyam tad anyasya. Apart from those, very obvious, apart from those means those where ajam yasya. And so what are the other ones? He actually gives you a commentary on what the other ones. Aham mama ityadi abhimanavataha. If you have a sense that I am just this much. See, this is what happens, that as we will see in the further commentaries on the Mandukya Upanishad and so on, once you make the basic mistake, which is an adhyasa, that I am just this body. That is the crux of the whole thing. How that happens and etc., it's a separate thing altogether. But once you know I am the body, then what happens is all the things that are relevant to the body also make you even more confused and more unable to understand that's not right. What I mean to say is that, for example, there's a very interesting, I'll come back to this in a minute, but I remember this example given by, this is a real life example, that there was a army general who was promoted to the chief of the army. And you know, when the chief of the army has a uniform, they have so many medals and so much, their whole chest is full of all these marks of like this, like this, like this. And so his grandson once told him, he says, Granddad, how did you get all these things? Amazing. In your life you got all these things? He says, no, my son, here's what happened. Once I became a general, You see this one right here, which is the mark of this college. He's the chief of staff of the general. This one I earned. This I earned. Then based on that, all these other things were just added on anyway. You go to university, they'll give you an honorary degree. You go to such and such place and he says, you are our leader, sir. So can we pin this on your... So he says, yeah, all these other things I didn't really work for. It automatically happened. This is exactly the same thing that occurs in our life. Once you make a basic mistake that I am this body, then other things associated with the body come along with it. This is what he's saying. So he says, aham mama ityadi abhimanavataha mumuksho. He says, your abhimana. And so how is the abhimana? Abhimana means your identification. So you say, my house. This is my house. I built this. And I'm the owner of this. These are my grandchildren. And so you feel very happy. You introduce it. They are your grandchildren? How cute. Yes, they are my grandchildren. They're my grandchildren. Meaning they're cute because of they are connected with me. Other grandchildren are not cute, but mine are very, very cute. So mama and aham all go together. And your abhimana becomes more locked in. You are now kind of like, sorry to say, the nails in the coffin of this person become so many nails. There's no way that the coffin guy can come out. Which is an amazing thing. They've found many times. You take a person and you declare him dead. This happens, by the way, in war quite a bit, because in a war there's so many people who are dying and so many things to be done. Even in like the earthquake in Turkey, the same thing happened. There's so many things going on that it is sometimes easy to make a mistake that the person is dead. And so this has actually happened many times where you actually try to get a person to bury that person. By the way, the other day, talking of that, for the first time in my life, I saw a burial of a person. I've sort of heard about it. But there is a friend of ours who died, and we attended her funeral. This is about a month back in Oakland. And we saw the process. I've seen cremation many times because I'm a Hindu, so I'm used to seeing cremation of lots of people. But the burial I had never seen. Just does a interesting thing. So I think you may have seen it, but it was for me to understand how. So the casket. So they had to dig. And so interestingly enough, in this burial place, there had to be a space for her, which was right next to all these tombstones. And the tombstones are very beautiful. They are made in stone and carved with their names. And there is a beautiful area that has been done. And there's always grass which is well mowed and so on. So in the middle of that, this plot of land was designated for this lady who died. And so we were all looking at to see the size of over just, there was a lot of crowded places, very cold, but we managed to see. And there's a lot of space, and you have to dig like something like 6 feet down, and with all the dirt that has been taken out and put as a mound temporarily. Then the people have to lower the casket. It has to be done at a particular height, and then the dirt is put on. And so at that point we left. And after that, I guess they would just, make the place nice and clean, and then they put up a tombstone. The reason the relevancy of what I'm talking about here is that I remember there was something I wanted to bring up. So there have been cases, these are document cases, where the person has been declared dead and he's put in the casket, and for some reason he is still alive and not recognized, and he starts moving. People will say, "Oh my God, this is our mistake, he's still alive." However, supposing a person is still alive, even though mistakenly you have said he's dead, he or she is dead, and you put it in a casket and you put all the nails on it, is there any chance that person will come out alive? Even if he is alive, he will not, he'll be dying, because he's now put into the casket and all the dirt has been moved in. This is exactly what happens in our life. We make a simple mistake. I don't understand. I am the Brahman, which is immortal. I think I am the mortal body. And the thought that I am the mortal body is augmented by my experiences, which puts like a nail in the coffin. Even if I am desirous of knowing that I am not the body, but some of the ancillary things that happen to the body make me very difficult to extract myself from the feeling that I am the body. Like, for example, sickness. Forget about sickness, hunger, thirst. And then, of course, my relationships, my friends, my family, my house, my car, money. All this is mine. And they put the nails around my coffin. I cannot extract myself. So this is where, pratyahara will be useful, where Patanjali said, listen, you are continuously surrounded by all these things, external things, that augment your original mistake that you are the body. And the only way you can diminish the power of the augmentation is to avoid it for the time being. I don't know relationships. The relationship is to the body, but not to me. So you keep doing those kinds of thoughts. You withdraw it yourself. Then you have an ability to understand who you are. Otherwise, forget it. Anyway, I spend a lot of time on that. So all I'm saying is that this Shankarananda ji points out that so here's the thing. Krishna determines that Arjuna is not one who understands that he is the Brahman. Because he knows it from his so the Guru and the Shishya, we have a good idea of, if it is a true Guru, we will have a pretty good idea of what the Shishya is up to. It's very difficult to fool a teacher, because the teacher has gone through all of that. So he can recognize the symptoms of the student, his thoughts, his behavior, his questions, his doubts. And from that, Krishna recognizes he hasn't gotten it yet. So therefore, he must continue with the dharmic war that he was enjoined to keep. Because you cannot say that you cannot say like a sannyasi, I'm going to give up everything. It won't work. It'll be just the opposite. You have to earn it. You haven't earned it yet. This is what is being pointed out. Tadanyasya aham mama iti abhimanavataha mumukshoho. He says, Brahmanaha vividishanti yagyena danena ityadi shruti balad chitta shuddhyartham vidhi drishtaha swadharmaha. Vidhi drishtaha swadharmaha. Vidhi drishtaha means that it is known as what needs to be done. Swadharma means your status in life that needs to be done. So basically what this all means is that the best way for you to develop your mind so that you have a better understanding of your status as a Brahman. Because the whole issue is that I don't understand it. My Shastra says one thing, but I don't get it. How do you get it? By developing the mind so that it becomes knowledgeable, informed. How do you get it informed? You get it informed that you do not create a problem in where you are in your life. You just keep doing what you need to do. You cannot walk out of your family and say, I don't want to take care of you. I want Atma Vidya. You can't do that. Because you took a certain vidhi and you have to complete it. Maybe later on in your life, when all of your debt is like a debt, all the debts are paid off, only then you can really be free. Otherwise, you see what your swadharma is. You have to figure out what is you're supposed to do and do a good job of it. We have taken that example that you have taken a job as part of a play, and the play has a certain structure to it. What the producers and directors, it has a certain plot, and you have to fulfill the plot. And in the middle of that, you say, I don't like my role. And then you start doing something else altogether. I feel like having coffee. Forget about my role. I'm just drinking coffee. Starbucks. I'm really missing it. Or I'm hungry. Hey, you have to play the role. You took yourself. You asked for the role. It's exactly what has happened. In all my previous lives, I've asked for this being what I am. It is best done if you, otherwise what will happen is, you'll spoil everything and then people will not let you, but the whole life will not let you perform what you're supposed to do. Anyway, so, that's just a general commentary. So we can figure this. So, tad anyasya aham mama ityadi abhimanavataha mumukshoho. Then he says that all these shastras say this very well. I don't have time to explain the meaning of this. Brahmanaha vividishanti yagyena danena means that this is ityadi. He says, etc. Shruti balat chitta shuddhyartham vidhitrishtaha swadharmaha. Purva ukta jnana siddhyartham kartavyaha eva iti bodhayitum idam prakaranam arabhyate. So he says, just because what needs to be done has to be cleared, therefore this section is begin. So he says, tatra adau arjunasya atmajnana abhavam alakshya tam svabhaktam mumukshum kartavye swadharme parvartayitum idam aha Sri Bhagavan swadharmamiti. So he says that Sri Bhagavan saw that Arjuna is not there yet. And therefore, from his compassion, he enjoins him, saying, please, you have been given a role in life to do something, please do it. And while you are doing it, develop your mind and to think about it. So I'll read maybe a little bit more and then we can hopefully finish this. Yada karta karanam karyam cha sarvam brahma eva iti vijñātam tadana kanchit kartavyam eva upapadyate. So he says, where there is no karta, there is no karma, everything is nothing but Brahman alone. The dream is finished, you are nothing but your own self alone, the conscious entity. For that there is nothing to be done. Yadi ete madiyaha maya hanyante iti bheda jnanam tadapi. He says, however, if you feel these are my people, mama madiyaha maya hanyante, I would be injuring them, I will be killing them. Bheda jnanam, if you have that distinction between others and you, mine and not mine, etc., therefore the cha is tu artha. However, in that case, yuddham swadharmaha nripatehe prajanam paripalanam ityadi shastra uktam swadharmam kshatriyasya kartavyattvena vihitam avekshya swabuddhya vicharya tvam vikampitum swadharmam aschalitum na arhasi. Swadharmam tyaktum na arhasi iti anena swadharmataya kartavyattvena prapte yuddhe yagaha iva shoka mohau hinsadi doshavit, etc. Anyway, so all of these you can study, but they essentially convey the fact that this yuddha, that this war that you are enjoined with, is appropriate for you to do, and you should follow through with it. And then he will end up by saying that if you were to win, so either way the results of this war would be very good for you. Either you win in which case you will enhance the ability of people to do their pujas. The whole society would be made whole, and your contributions to the society as well as to your own self will be wonderful. So you should do that. Then he says that suppose you get killed in the process. In that case also your future will be taken care of by me. I assure you, you will go to Swargaloka and enjoy for a while. Because people, this is a fact, that people that die in a dharmic war are well taken care of. You don't have to worry about it. They are given lots of wonderful things in subsequent times. So he says it doesn't matter either way. Either you win and you'll enjoy now, or if you lose and you get perished in the process, I'll make sure that you are made whole later. Either one, you are in good shape. So therefore, please fight. This is the consistent view of the Shastra, that you have to continue with your regular life with a smile on your face, and whatever time you have to spare to yourself after servicing everybody else, that is where you have to continue to study. So that's the overall message given by Swami, by the Gita, but clarified by Swami Shankarananda. So with that, let me close the class. Om Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Shantikumar, thanks. That sounds right. Next time I meet this gentleman, I will confirm that this is what he was participating in. So thanks for clarifying that. So if you think of some questions, do let me know. I'll be happy to answer that. In the meantime, just sharing some ideas for the teaching. And I think I had mentioned this already previously, but just to confirm what my thoughts are and how I want to proceed. So as you know, we are some of us are going to the retreat in middle of May, 13th through the 20th of May. And so there, Swami Viditatmananda ji has asked me to take the Aparoksha Anubhuti. I'm actually trying to ask him. I haven't really gotten hold of him because this is a huge text. As you can see, just on a few verses we have spent on the meditation. But I want to find out from him in the 18 or 20 classes at the ashram which one he would ask me to focus on. And Swamiji is actually writing it. This is being transcribed and published. I think he's indicated to us that it should be ready by May. So we will have his book. And then of course I will have also Swami Pakhandananda ji's Sanskrit books with me. And so I will pick and choose from that and do that course during the retreat. But then I am now almost certain that we will end this section of doing the meditation section from Anubhuti Prakash, Aparoksha Anubhuti, and the Gita, both in rest of April and May. So by the time we go to the retreat, we would have completed that. I wouldn't say complete the Gita because that was never my intent. I knew how much material there is in this book, and it would take me years to finish that in the style that I'm doing, and also the time that we have. So there's no way of completing it. Nevertheless, I think I would have given you an idea of how the commentary by Swami Shankarananda on the Bhagavad Gita, and also by Adi Shankara, which we have done previously, how it is to be done. More or less, what is the structure, what is the methodology, and not complete the book per se. So this is the plan that we have, that we will complete this section of the Bhagavad Gita, and by that time the complete section on Nididhyasanam also. All that should be done by end of in the middle of May. So what is it, about 5 or 6 more classes. And then when we come back, I am really enthused about starting, as I mentioned, that's nothing new, Mandukya Upanishad in terms of the commentary of Swami Akhandananda ji. This has been a revelation to me in the last 1 year. When I have studied that, my insight, my clarity has really become a lot better. And I'm very willing to share those ideas from Swamiji with you. And so with respect to that, I will be starting that course. I would like the help of the ashram also to publicize it so that other people in the country can also do so. And this would be a kind of a long-term course. This will go on for a few years because the depth of his teaching, I want to convey that to you. It is not just reading a few, that's the mananam part of it. We've already done the shravanam part of it once, but this would become a much more detailed commentary on how the understanding is. And with respect to that, we will bring in all the other Upanishads also, as he does. I won't do it, but automatically I would impute that. So with respect to that, I'm going to look for some appropriate English versions of Mandukya Upanishad. There is no English version of Swami Akhandananda Ji's. So I have now 10 sets of Swami Akhandananda Ji's book that arrived recently. I have 10 of them. And I believe that some of you have already asked for it. I have not looked in to see how many of them have already been accounted for, but I would take the first 10 that ask for it. Some of you have already done so, and if you haven't done so, please let me know. I will price it out and will make it available. Probably I would say when Swami Paramatmananda Ji is here, then we can distribute the books, both the Mandukya as well as some other books that I also got. But Mandukya in particular, the 10 in Hindi will be useful to you because that's what I'm going to base it on. And if you're not Hindi speaking, then you will have to rely on my teaching in the classes. So that is the plan. I don't know exactly when we would start. Let's say 1st of June, so around their time frame. And so that's how we would do it. Tuesday night I have to think about. I'm not sure yet. But the Saturday morning I will do so. Oh, one other thing. Now that we will not do meditation, what I'd like to do, with your permission and with your agreement, to do a 1.5 hour class on Mandukya. One idea was to do 2 sections, 10 minutes, 15 minutes apart. So do one for about maybe 50 minutes to an hour, take a 15-minute interval for you to get a drink, go to the bathroom, whatever, and then go back to a second one for an hour. Because there's a lot of material that we have to cover, and we have very limited time, so I think we should do that. But I think that my feeling would be that maybe too much. You may not be able to afford that much time. So we will probably enlarge the class to an hour and a half, maybe hour 20 minutes or so. And do this, again I will ask a survey. Do you want to continue at 9 o'clock or do you want to go back to 8 o'clock? So those are some of the variations that I will work with. But as far as the text and the emphasis is concerned, Mandukya is what I will start with, and I will be giving you in more details about it as time to come. Okay, thank you so much. We'll look forward to seeing you next week. Hari Om.